Performance is a funny thing. We talk about great musical performances all the time, but very rarely do we actually talk about what makes them great, what parts build up a great performance. This is the reason why I wanted to start a new video series analysing great performances, pulling them apart, looking at the component pieces and figuring out how we can apply this to our own performances. I thought the best place to start with this would be someone who is, without question, the greatest singer of the 20th century. Someone whose name lives on with all of the fanfare that it truly deserves. I'm, of course, talking about Donny Osmond.
And they called it Puppy Love.
Okay, I know it sounds like I'm joking, but I promise you I'm not. We're about to look at one of the greatest performances that Donny has ever given. Before we actually look at the performance itself, though, let's take a moment to talk about the song.
The song we're taking a look at is Close Every Door from the musical Joseph and His Technicolor Dreamcoat. This is a musical by Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice that has one particularly interesting design feature. That is the narrator. You see, this musical was written to be performed by children. This is why so many of the songs are very simple in their structure and melody, and almost all of the songs have an ensemble arrangement. Most of the heavy lifting is done by the narrator, who has significantly more lines to remember and remains the most prominent singer in most of the songs. Even Joseph, the titular main character, only has 2 solos in the entire show, Any Dream Will Do and Close Every Door. It's a very clever way to arrange the music. It means that as long as your narrator can sing, the rest of the cast just needs to be able to hold a tune. This also allowed the producers to do something very interesting to promote the show: celebrity stunt casting. If you grew up in the 90s, you will definitely remember your favourite children's TV presenter or soap opera star being cast as Joseph, drawing audiences in to see them in the play. It worked very well. A lot of people who'd never been to see a stage musical before came to theatres, so it brought a whole new audience to this show.
So when Donny Osmond was cast as Joseph in 1992, he didn't have a big job ahead of him. All he had to do was turn up, be on time, remember his lines, and hit his marks. What he did instead was deliver the performance of a lifetime. Close Every Door to me is very simple in its structure. It's all crotchet notes sung directly on the beat. So, close every door to me, hide all the world from me, bar all the windows and shut out the lights. Again, it's a song written for children. What Donny does with this rhythm, though, is really interesting. Take a listen to that first verse.
Close every door to me, hide all the world from me, bar all the windows and shut out the light.
Notice how Osmond alters this rhythm, placing emphasis on certain words. This does a few things. First, it adds a much more dynamic rhythm to the song. Not only is it more interesting to listen to, it is also a lot more dramatic. It also pauses after words like door, world, and windows, as well as creating a pause before the word light to give emphasis to these particular words.
Close every door to me, hide all the world.
It also gives the sensation of movement. Rather than static quarter notes that give this quite plodding, downtrodden feel, this take gives the impression of slow, sullen movement. You can almost feel Joseph pacing around his cell as he sings this. This also provides an interesting counterpoint for later in the song. Where this first section sits behind the beat, dragging its feet, later when the music starts to rise in tone, he shifts to in front of the beat, urging the song forwards before the protagonist's spirits start to fade again.
If my life were important, I would ask, will I live or die? But I know the answers lie far from this world.
This is a fascinating approach to this piece of music, and it hints at a larger philosophy that informs this particular performance.
Where most singers are content to sit on the beat and just sing the melody that's in front of them, Donny Osmond is doing something really interesting here. He's emphasizing different aspects of his performance to illustrate what he feels is important about the message of the song. It's not something you see very often, but when you think about it for more than a moment, it makes perfect sense. This is how we communicate as people. It's the difference between saying, "You idiot," and saying, "You idiots." Both exactly the same words, but the meaning is totally different.
Use of rhythmic devices is not the only way that Osmond does this. Every second of this performance is a masterclass on how to use dynamics to create an impact in your singing.
Close every door to me, hide all the world from me, bar all the windows and shut out the light.
Notice how he builds up to a note and then trails away. So he builds in volume coming to the word door and then drops again when singing to me. This does an amazing job of emphasizing the sense of listlessness that the protagonist is experiencing, showing that he really does think all hope is lost. This also gives a much larger dynamic contrast against the last section of the song where he really kicks it up a gear, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. This also creates the sensation of being dragged down. Every time the protagonist starts to build something, he bows his head and keeps quiet to avoid the ire of the guards.
This use of dynamics is expertly paired with Donny Osmond's use of hard consonants. This is not something you see done a lot in contemporary music, but it really is a genius addition. Listen again to the first line, how he delivers it.
Close every door to me.
Notice how he says the word close. Every other performer I've heard do this piece before this recording jumps straight in with a hard consonant. Close. Right on the beat, exactly the way it's written on the page. But Osmond softens this consonant sound, putting the emphasis on the O vowel. He combines this with starting the consonant sound before the beat, meaning that the O sound hits exactly where the beat starts. Listen again.
Close every door to me.
This is such a tiny detail, but it is an amazing one. It helps preserve the dynamic tension of the piece, as well as giving a very delicate feeling to the delivery, like the protagonist is afraid of raising his voice.
I know I sound like a crazy person when I go on about this, but it is honestly my favourite detail of the entire performance. It really shows how Donny puts extreme care into every tiny detail of his performance. He puts more thought into how he said the word close than more people put into an entire song.
This isn't the only place that Donny uses hard consonants to great effect. When it comes to the line, shut out the light, he really pronounces those T sounds to make them cut through. Listen here.
Bar all the windows and shut out the light.
This pairs beautifully with his use of rhythm in this section, creating this real feeling of finality when he sings it. You get the impression that the protagonist genuinely doesn't think he's going to see the light of day again. It's also incredibly subtle. Even though he hardens the T sound to make shut out ring very clearly, he doesn't change any other aspect of his delivery. Donny is clearly reining it in here so that his delivery doesn't come across as aggressive, maintaining the sense of hopelessness that he's built in his performance.
Bar all the windows and shut out the light.
These performance details are brilliant on their own, but one of the things I really love is how Osmond uses contrasting techniques later in the song to put these into sharp relief. Let's take a listen to the end section now.
Close every door to me. Keep those I love from me. Children of Israel are never alone.
Here, he has consciously done the opposite of everything he built up in the first part of the song. Instead of singing behind the beat, he sings ahead of the beat, coming in slightly early to create this sense of desperation and panic. The use of dynamics is almost entirely gone, replaced instead by this pattern of sliding down to the note to create musical dissonance.
Close every door to me. Keep those I love from me. Children of
He even uses uses a hard consonant on close, which he sings bang on the beat. This gives the effect of a very sudden impact, like a door slamming shut with a loud bang. It's chaotic and brilliant, and by adding all this tension in this section, it provides a real release when he comes to the end section.
For we know we shall find our own peace of mind.
Notice how Donny is singing a higher harmony during this line in the section. This provides a wonderful musical counterpoint to the preceding section where he was adding dissonance by sliding down to the notes he sang. This is a bold addition to the piece, which not every singer has done in this role, and it adds yet another layer to the performance.
And there you have it. That's how Donny Osmond turned a children's song into a performance masterclass. It's easy to dismiss Donny Osmond as this singer from the 70s, best known for kitsch TV shows and songs from when he was a child star, but this incredible attention to detail really shows how masterful a performer he is. I hope you found this look into performance techniques interesting and informative. I'm planning on doing a lot more of these, so let me know down in the comments below if you've got any other things you want me to take a look at. As always, like and subscribe if you want to find out more content, and also I am available for private lessons for vocals and for performance analysis. So drop me an email at benmilesgm@gmail.com and let me know if you're interested. Thanks so much for your time. I'll see you next time.